It's been 30 years since Batman the Animated Series, also known as BTAS, debuted on television in September of 1992. For many, it instantly became their definitive version of Batman. In honor of the 30th anniversary, today's episode of SiDEBAR Forever is an all-out love fest for a show that truly broke new ground in superhero animation and gave us yet another iconic portrayal of the Caped Crusader. In the conversation, Dwight Swain and myself break down how Batman the Animated Series came together, discuss memorable episodes such as On Leather Wings, Heart of Ice, and Two-Face, and we put respect on the names of the driving creative forces who launched the show, including show creators Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, writers Alan Burnett and Paul Dini, composer Shirley Walker, and voice director Andrea Romano. Speaking of voice direction, we also dive deep into many of the amazing actors who worked on BTAS: Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, Bob Hastings, Melissa Gilbert, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Robert Costanzo, Tara Strong, and Lauren Lester. I'm Adrian Johnson. Dwight Swain and myself recorded this one against a black background to give it a darker, more noirish tone. How could we not, as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of a landmark TV show such as Batman the Animated Series?
Can y'all believe that it's been 30 years since this show, Batman the Animated Series, debuted? Like 3 decades.
No, bro.
That's crazy. I mean, it really is. It
Yeah.
really is. It would be akin to, like, you know, when we watched Tom and Jerry as kids, right? And that was 30 years prior to that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So in that same instance, you know, it's funny to view it that way. But the thing with BTAS, you know, Batman Animated Series, is that it still seems fresh.
Yeah.
Very fresh.
We were talking about our recent rewatches of the show, and Adrian, you were pointing out that a lot of the stuff still holds up in terms of the drama, the high stakes, the low stakes, the emotional stakes, and also even the look. What was the thing you were saying about the turning the color off? And
Yeah, I was, you know, wanting to make a suggestion. You know, the next time anybody watches, you know, any episode, especially from that first season, change the setting on your TV to black and white, you know, if you can, and I guarantee you it will look like a film noir, you know, akin to, like, you know, White Heat or DOA or any of those film noirs, Out of the Past, you know, stuff like that. And I think instantly you'll see the correlation that, you know, the creators made to wanting it to look like those film noirs from the classics from the 40s.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dwight, did you start watching the show on television? Or
On television.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Loved it, man. I mean, it's instant classic for me. It was like, wow. Okay. And my previous incarnations of Batman to me, as you know, growing up as a kid, was Adam West.
Right.
And then it
Enough
was
respect to the guy. Go ahead.
well, then it was those Saturday morning cartoons with of the Filmation ones. You know, Batman and Robin. You know, it's called Batman. And then it was the '90s films with Tim Burton. And this is more akin to that to me with Tim Burton. And what I liked about it most was the fact that it was so heavily shaded and it was like they moved slow, and it wasn't the ambient noise was very subtle if at all.
Right.
And you can move into the characters, into the scene, the scenes seamlessly.
Right.
So I love the graphic quality of it, man. It sold me instantly.
As much as the orchestral score, like by Shirley Walker and other composers, played a part in it, there were amazing quiet moments where someone's walking down the street and you hear a can,
right?
Or you hear the wind blowing, or
the clip clop of the shoes.
Yeah, and so that in and of itself becomes its own kind of score to the scene. You know, just allowing those quote natural sounds to kind of to kind of tell you a story without telling you a story. Okay, you know, to suggest loneliness or isolation or a crowd or you know, whatever they were doing.
Made Gotham feel real dangerous, man.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I picked up too in my recent rewatches is the fact that you really did get a sense of the crime in Gotham from this show. And it wasn't like hitting you over the head like the films kind of do. Like the Nolan films is, Gotham is...
It's just out of control.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's on the brink of being like, you know, some kind of a dystopian, neo-future city overrun with crime or whatever. But in this sense, it was just like, people get mugged, people rob other people get kidnapped, buildings are blown up, and there's vandalism, and there is murder, even though, they didn't show any gore on this show. But yeah, man, debuted in September of 1992 and distributed by Warner Brothers Animation.
Yeah.
The short version of how the show came together, from what I understand, I watched a couple of documentaries, and I put all my DVDs out.
Nice.
With Tim and Glenn and Eric and Alan and Gene McCurdy and all of them. Gene McCurdy was the executive over the animation for Warner Brothers, and there was a meeting, and the 89 Batman had already been out. It was very popular. They were waiting on the second one. And so they wanted to do an animated Batman cartoon. And I guess Tim was either in the meeting or heard about it. And he immediately, wanted to do something. So he and Eric Radomski, who I believe was a background painter, they started working on, some ideas of what it could look like, what it could be. And they got with McCurdy. And I think they were all pretty much in agreement that they were going to go for an older audience of kids, like maybe preteens to teenagers.
Smart.
People right at Adrian's age.
12.
Yeah.
Target market.
Yeah. And they were going to show like violence and guns and things of that nature. No gore. No, nobody getting truly offed.
Right.
A lot of stuff would be done off camera in creative ways.
Right.
But they did want to have a more mature tone, and that's how they ended up convincing Alan Burnett to come in as one of the writers, because he had done all the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy and Super Friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And and they would never show, like, they would show, there's a thing in one of the documentaries where Burnett was saying, like, they would have the army in the cartoon, not Batman the Animated Series, but in one of the other cartoons he worked on, but they wouldn't hold guns.
That's correct. Yep.
So it's like, well, how does this work again?
Right. They run and get the guns, come back and fight foes. Right?
Or when they shoot the guns, it's like lasers,
Right.
almost. Even on the animated series, when they would shoot like those Tommy guns,
Right.
You almost got the sense that they were bullets, but it was like flashes almost.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
almost like flashes of lasers almost.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had consequences, but anyway, that's how they got Alan Burnett involved, and then a bunch of other amazing creatives as well. But man, my recent rewatch, I was really struck by, like Adrian was talking about the noir look of it, but the tone of the show was just dripping with, that pulp and mystery, action, adventure, crime, the look, as Adrian is referring to, the Art Deco, which I don't know why when I watched this years ago when it was on television and when I watched the episodes, I never questioned, well, why is, there's not this much Art Deco anywhere,
Right.
I mean, the interiors, the exteriors, and, everything, but, they kind of wanted it to be consistently, like Batman was created in the late 30s.
That's right.
Late 30s, right?
Yep.
So it's constantly, it's never stopped being 1938 or 1940 all the way through. Even though they have cell phones and they have modern helicopters, you see blimps.
Right.
Those
are awesome.
They have computers.
Yes, right.
No laptops. I haven't seen laptops. But just the look, very like German expressionism, in terms of the contrast and everything. And like you said, I was the other thing I stuck with me too was Shirley Walker in particular. Her score. Her score. It was dramatic, like an old Warner Brothers gangster film.
Yes.
Yes. All this kind of orchestration and the drums and the soaring horns.
Emotional build-up, yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, as a younger person watching it, I never questioned, why does it feel so vintage at the time? But it just did.
Timeless, exactly. Yeah. Like it really occupies this space where it just, like I was a history fan as a kid, so I appreciate the leanings to like the 30s type of styling, but it never felt old to me. I just felt like, oh, okay. Like, especially like the Batmobile itself, like in the opening, that long just,
right.
Just great.
Yeah.
Just great.
Like an old Cadillac sedan.
Yeah, yeah.
A Broham, Broham doors.
But more formidable, like definitely like a lot more like tanky in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the other people who worked on this show, other than like Bruce and and Eric and Alan. Of course, Paul Dini. Who, from my understanding, he was kind of a big deal because he had done so much.
The undeniable Paul Dini, sir.
Yeah. Terrific writer. He had worked on the Smurfs and Hulk and Fat Albert.
And Fat Albert, I was going to say.
Back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah. Marty Pasco from comics. Michael Reeves was another writer that worked on the show. And then in the art department, the aforementioned Glenn Murakami, Shane Poindexter, Ronnie Del Carmen, Chris Borgio, Kevin Altieri, Butch Lukic, all names that pop up in the credits. You see them going back and looking.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Gaeta, Tony Salmons.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, did storyboards on. I wonder if he was fun to work with.
I told a story on the previous incarnation about that. You guys have to look it up, but it's funny.
Yeah. Larry Houston, and then at the outset during development, because I think Tim didn't really have a staff at the time, he reached out to some comic veterans.
Go ahead.
Kevin Nolan and Mike Mignola for character designs. And he was a fan. He didn't know them, and they said, you want to take a crack at this? And he's like, sure. So they ended up submitting some designs, and so Mignola's design for Mr. Freeze is pretty much what they used.
And it looks exactly like it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's awesome. It's gorgeous.
It's
one of my favorite stories, actually, is that one.
Mm-hmm. And Nolan contributed, of course, Man-Bat, from his famous Man-Bat story.
Right, from Secret Origins. Yes, sir.
And he also did the design for Killer Croc that they used. They basically used his design for Killer Croc.
Didn't Darwin Cook do something for the series?
That was later.
Okay.
That was in the later incarnations. When Batman and Robin Adventures came back. And then obviously Batman Beyond.
Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. And as Dwight was mentioning about the films, Nolan did a design for the Penguin that they didn't use because his design was more traditional, I think, and they wanted to use one that was closer to the Penguin in the 1990 Batman Returns.
Okay.
So if you look at the Penguin in that very first season, he's a little kind of mutant-ish looking.
Yeah,
he's kind of weird looking in that way.
My flipper technique.
But yeah, composer Shirley Walker and Danny Elfman did the theme. From the introduction, and voice director, the incomparable, the inimitable Andrea Romano. I mean, just fucking kills it on everything, everything. And then other people who worked in production: Tammy List, Henry Gilroy, Karen Colas, Haven Alexander, and Ted Blackman. They were like production assistants who worked on the show, and they were featured in the documentary that I watched too. So I probably more I didn't want the unsung to be overlooked, but do you guys go back in your rewatches and come up with more favorite episodes or key episodes that stood out to you? Because I did. I thought, I remember this one. This was my favorite. And then when I went back, I was like, oh, wow, this is really hitting me in the feels.
Yeah.
What about y'all?
Yeah, there was one that I watched last night that was really good. This is a real small one. It's not earth-shattering, but it's one called Joker's Favor.
Yeah.
Like the one, and I love those comic stories to where we take the focus off of like the hero or protagonist for a minute and just focus on like the little guy. He has his problems, and then all of a sudden one of the villains, comes to him. You know what I'm saying? Intrudes on his little world, and brings him into the fold and everything. That's what happens in Joker's Favor. You know what I'm saying? Just common guy, and the Joker, he curses out the Joker on the freeway.
Oh, yeah. Charles. Hey, Charles.
Chaz.
Chaz.
And the Joker confronts him and says, all right, I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to call you. You don't know when, but I'm going to call you. Kind of like in Goodfellas where Robert De Niro takes the truck driver's ID. You don't know us, but we know you now.
Right.
That type of thing.
Or The Shadow, where you owe me a favor in the future. Or even a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Eraser.
Hey.
Where he kind of goes back to the people he's helped or whatever, and they owe him a favor.
Right.
And he calls in those favors.
Right. Chinatown, too.
Yeah.
With Curly and... Yeah. So anyway, 2 years later, as the title card states, Charles gets a phone call, and it's the Joker. I'm ready for you. And so I won't spoil the rest of it. But yeah, I thought that was a great episode. Baby Doll. That's another that hit me.
Yo.
I was like, dang. I remember seeing that as a kid and was like, that was a good episode,
that shit creeped me out, man.
Yeah,
It me as well, yo.
And then when you go back and watch it again, it's like, dang, this actually goes kind of deep. You know,
it has shades of whatever happened to Baby Jane kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And then also, if you ever see, there's a movie that came out maybe in the last 10 years. What was it called? The Adoption?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a little girl that gets adopted from Russia by a family here in America, and something's not right with her, and they find out that she has a disease. She's actually a grown woman playing like she's a 12-year-old.
Damn.
And then she slowly starts to like try to kill the mother and take over the household and tries to seduce the father.
Yeah. Wasn't and the girl, doesn't she have like long dark hair?
Yeah.
I remember that coming out. Yes.
Was that Elizabeth Shue in it?
No, it was Vera Farmiga and Peter Skarsgård.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that coming out.
Yeah. Okay. And I believe it was I want to say it was C.H. Pounder.
Oh wow, okay.
Plays like a woman who runs like a home for wayward children or for lost children or whatever. And then the girl offs her.
Damn.
It's I forgot exactly. I can't believe I forgot the title of the movie, but
I think
it's vibes of that and Baby Doll. You know, this kind of sinister childlike figure, and you're like,
yeah, but she's a former child star. So, and it's funny how a lot of those episodes will play with, and a lot of the Rogues Gallery in those episodes will play with like your sympathies a bit.
Yeah,
like the story makes you kind of see their point of view.
Right.
So then when Batman comes around, you almost feel like, dang, I kind of halfway want them to get away.
He's been a judgmental dick.
And then a couple more that I had was one of my all-time favorites, Christmas with the Joker. I love that.
I love that one. I love that one.
It's just so manic and just so.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill is just chewing it up.
Man,
it's just great.
Hamming it up, man.
And I like Time Out of Joint with the Clock King.
Wasn't it just called the Clock King?
It might have been, but I thought there were 2 episodes.
I think there were 2 episodes. The first one was the Clock King. That might have been a follow-up.
Whichever one has like Batman and Robin in it, and all I remember from the episode is like they're riding on these motorcycles and they're able to pause time or whatnot. And I remember the color.
That must be the second one.
Okay.
Because the first one is the origin story of the Clock King.
Okay, that's
he's an efficiency expert, and this lawyer who's running for mayor tells him to change his routine, and it screws up he loses his whole company, his fortune, whatever, and then so he sets out to get his revenge or whatever. And but the thing that's funny that you kind of just to pause here for a second is like that's very noir, like desperate characters and no-win situations, tragic characters, sympathetic villains, and there's like a thread through here of like nerds who've been done wrong who get their revenge.
No, it's true. Yeah, man.
But absolutely, man. What about you, D?
Man, I still like the classics, man. I like the Clayface episode.
Oh, that's right. Feet of Clay. My God, it's so good. Yeah. Matt Hagen.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And anytime Kevin Conroy's on it, man, it just turns out his voice acting, it just elevates the next level for me, man. But this guy matched his ferocity.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I feel sorry for him, man. You know. Yeah. And that's the best type of villain. It's like you said, Adrian, earlier. It's the ones you can feel like, you know, there's a sense of humanity to them. And then you can kind of look at things from their side and say, Batman's just a dick, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
this is his story, but this is my story. And you switch tables, you can say, okay, well, now it's my turn to shine and show what I can do, you know?
Right.
So.
Yeah, like it was the same way with the episode, I think it's called Sideshow with Killer Croc, where he joins a circus, and he's amongst, I hate to say it like this, he's amongst other freaks that take him in.
Right.
They see nothing wrong with him.
Right.
He's not a monster to them. He's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But to the others and to Batman, he must be stopped. You know? It's like, no. And then, you know, the freaks there are like, don't take him. You don't have to take him.
Right.
You know? Where you going, Croc? You know?
Right.
It'd be like, oh, man. And all those Batman episodes are the best when they end on a dour note. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, that would hit me like, and I would feel like teared up when I was a kid. I'm tearing up now.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna tell you. One of my favorites is, of course, and Dwight referenced the classics, is Beware the Grey Ghost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I watched it yesterday while I was on the treadmill. And I'm telling you, at the end, man, I was all weepy, yo. Yeah. I was like, you know, I used to watch this show when I was after he gets his book signed by Simon Trent. So I used to watch this show when I was a kid with my father. He's like, really? He says, yeah. He says, Grey Ghost was my hero, and he still is. I was like, oh man. And it was really like something special because all of these episodes, not all of them, I remember I was texting with Glenn years ago when we were trying to get him as a guest on the show. And I referenced one of the episodes. I think maybe I've got Batman in my basement.
Yeah.
And Glenn was like, it wasn't our finest hour or half hour, But, all of these classic episodes, they go deeper. Like, Beware the Grey Ghost is really about, like, regret, being a bitter pill to swallow later in life.
Yeah.
And being disillusioned by meeting your heroes and finding out they're not who you think they are. I Am the Night, which is another classic episode where Batman is actually, being introspective and he's kind of doubting his mission and doubting, what it is that he wants to do. Should I keep doing this? Am I really making a difference?
Yeah.
And even like in Two-Face, the two-parter with Two-Face, which is one of my favorites. Richard Mall, plays the but like his character, he's like, it's kind of dealing with like mental illness. And that wasn't something that you would see discussed in a child's cartoon, or a cartoon aimed at, at preteens or whatnot. But, even that episode, when after he's scarred, he's at the hospital and his girlfriend Grace is coming back to visit him and you hear this scream, Richard Mall, I mean, it's blood curdling and it is to his soul. And then when he runs out, the lightning flashes and he turns and she can see his face and she sees how scarred he is and she passes out. And just throughout the course, like Dwight was saying about the sympathy, is you feel like, damn, this guy was struggling with mental illness his whole life. He was successful, but he was a high functioning person who was trying to manage this. But and then to have him be, scarred like this, he loses his fiance, he loses his esteem in the city and becomes a criminal. And it was like, wow. But the thing I did kind of like about it, and this is maybe speaks more to me. I did kind of like the idea that decisions were made by a coin. Like, he didn't have to make the decision.
Right.
The coin made the decision. And, like, what it would be like to live your life like that, where you say, okay, the coin says this is what it is. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
And be like, you know what I'm saying? You kind of abdicate your own responsibility.
Take your onus off yourself. Yeah, man. He's easily one of the most paradoxical characters out there, man. I enjoy him for that reason, because it's like any point in time, it's like he was a good guy until this incident.
Right.
Like, he wasn't like the Joker. Joker was always an asshole.
Right.
But this guy, he was a good guy to this incident, and then it just changed his psyche to the point where now he relies on the coin to make the difference for him. As far as like, do I go or do I stay? Flip the coin, right? It's a heads, tails, or whatever, and that's the answer.
Right. And even his henchmen would be like, flipping a coin, because they were there to steal them. They broke in to steal the money from this gangster's like his underground gambling organization. And he was like, he was trying to take people's rings and jewelry. He's like, no. The coin said we're only coming for the money. And they're like, the coin? Yeah, but they couldn't get it. Right. So, but other episodes that I like, of course, and Dwight, I think kind of referenced this maybe when we were off mic, but Heart of Ice is a classic.
Yes.
Mr. Freeze, again, as a tragic figure in the story.
Man, and I'm a sucker for like bucket-headed characters that have that ambience to their voice. Yeah.
Right. You hear his voice inside.
Yes, man. I love that shit.
Yeah. And On Leather Wings, which is a very popular one. A Bullet for Bullock is one that I liked as well. And the two-parter Robin's Reckoning. Again, it's about Batman as a mentor figure, actually not just being like a mentor, but trying to be a father and protect Robin. It's like, no, I don't want you to find out that this guy's the guy that that had your parents killed, and Robin having to kind of deal with that, And I like the fact that this show, especially Adrian, you were talking about how good the first season was and how long it was, and how many episodes there were.
Yeah,
the first season they very craftily and subtly set up Robin kind of pushing against Batman as a mentor to become Nightwing later.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, he never listens to me. He doesn't want me to go on certain adventures with him. He doesn't think I can handle it. I can sneak behind his back and go anyway. And, he doesn't listen. Just all of those things that a younger person would want from the attention of their mentor, and he didn't give him that, and it kind of leads you into, I'm going to become my own person later on.
And I think that's why I didn't mind it as a kid, because Robin can be annoying. Because this was right before...
He's a boy wonder!
Yeah, but this was right before I started getting into comics real heavy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I would get into comics heavy that following year in 93. But, before that, when this was coming out, he was kind of the surrogate for us. Now, Robin didn't show up in the earlier episodes, like maybe here and there. Once he started being a regular some way, I didn't mind it. Especially as a kid. I was like, he was a surrogate for a younger person, so to speak. And plus, when he and Batman were together, it was a good offset.
Right.
Especially when they had like those adventures, like I said, against the Clock King or other things like that. It was like they work good together. And the voice talents of Kevin Conroy, who did the voice of Robin in those episodes?
Lauren Lester.
Yeah. They worked very well off each other. Yeah. So it was good pairing.
Yeah. And I think also too, man, because the series changed names when they made Robin more of a lead figure with Batman, right?
They had to retitle it Batman and Robin Adventures.
Right, right. And then later it became the New Batman Adventures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see, because I have all of it. I have in multiple iterations. Like I bought stuff and then when the better version came along 10 years or 20 years later, I bought that. So I've got it all. Yeah. But did you guys see Mask of the Phantasm and Sub-Zero, those feature films?
I've seen part of Mask of the Phantasm, and I remember being like amazed, like, oh shit, they actually showed blood on here?
Yeah.
I remember thinking that as a kid.
Right.
I was like, wow. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah. I've only seen part of Mask of Phantasm at your house a long time ago, but I never saw the full film.
Sub-Zero?
Yeah.
Either? Mm-mm. Okay. I believe maybe both, but I know for sure Mask of the Phantasm was actually a theatrical release.
It was.
I saw it in theaters.
Okay.
By myself.
Okay.
I'm sitting there with all these kids. They're like, what you doing? Well, I'm like talking to you.
Right. Would you please sit down and stop going to the bathroom?
Something else I kind of noticed in my rewatch was, and again, this is the subtlety of the writing of guys like Burnett and Paul Dini, is Batman would refer to Bruce Wayne as a separate person.
Yeah.
He would say, they're supposed to meet at Bruce Wayne's office, or Bruce Wayne is supposed to meet with them tomorrow. Bruce Wayne has to do so-and-so. But not as if Bruce Wayne was himself. And that was, of course, the conceit of the show.
That's right.
And us as deep-cut fans to know that, the real person is Batman. Bruce Wayne is the front. That's the creation. But the real person is Batman. But another thing, too, and this is funny, but this is a design thing, Bruce used to look boxy as hell in those big old suits.
Yeah.
The talking head David Burns. Take me to the river.
One shot.
And you may ask yourself, who is the villain for today? You may ask yourself, what city am I in? Gotham.
Right? Nice. As the days go by.
Yeah.
Robin's laying on the ground. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. but y'all mentioned Kevin Conroy and Lauren Lester. Let's talk about some of the cast of the show, man.
Sure.
The main cast were those two, of course, and then the aforementioned Mark Hamill as the Joker. Yes. And he actually replaced Tim Curry. Tim Curry was the Joker at first.
Really?
Way.
Yeah.
Like in the early episodes with Joker, it was Tim Curry?
Either it was one or two early episodes, or they recorded the audio and then they thought better about it after the fact, and then they replaced him with Mark Hamill.
Oh, they as much as I love Tim Curry and I would love to hear his voice as that, they made the right decision.
Right. Mark Hamill crushed it.
Oh, yeah.
Hardcore.
Really and truly, you can say what you want about Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson, but Mark Hamill's voice did 5 times the heavy lifting
Elevated.
they did.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Little bats.
Yeah.
He was just fantastic.
He was.
Yeah.
Bob Hastings was Commissioner Gordon.
Indelible. You can't not hear it.
Spot on. When I read Batman Year One, that's the voice I hear for Jim Gordon. It's Bob Hastings' voice. Melissa Gilbert was Barbara Gordon. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. was Alfred.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the first season.
looks like him too a little bit in the eyes.
A bit, exactly.
Yeah.
Although Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. was way smoother and had a head of hair, mascot, all of that. Very old Hollywood kind of a figure. Robert Costanzo was Harvey Bullock.
Okay, yeah.
Robert Costanzo was. Do you remember Die Hard 2?
Yeah.
Remember the cop who stops Bruce Willis at the airport and gives him a ticket?
Okay.
That was Robert Costanzo.
Okay.
And he's been in a ton of things.
He looks exactly how he sounds.
Yeah.
Right.
He looks like a New York guy, tough.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
Seen a lot of things. Tara Strong was in it. And I think she becomes Batgirl, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Lauren Lester, of course, was Robin. But the guest stars, the stunt casting, if you will, I guess is what they would maybe more refer to it now. Adrienne Barbeau as the early Catwoman, the Cat in the Cowl.
Yeah.
Adrienne Barbeau, yo.
Yeah.
Barbeau. Rodney McDowell, who was the what was Rodney McDowell's character? He was the Mad Hatter.
That figures. Yeah.
Rodney McDowell was the Mad Hatter. Adam West, of course, was the Grey Ghost.
Yes.
That was just that was the most meta, perfect casting.
Sure.
I'm surprised they got Adam West to even do it.
Right.
Considering his relationship with the Batman character and so forth. Any other standouts for you guys in terms of the well-known live-action actors who played characters on the show?
Later on, Cree Summer played. She played Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
In this version?
Talia?
Yeah, she played Talia.
In this version?
Maybe, I'm not sure in that version. Maybe in Batman
I think it was
Beyond.
another version.
Maybe Batman Beyond.
Version,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She killed it. She killed it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Who voiced Ra's al Ghul in this one? Do you know?
David Warner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know who David Warner is, right?
Yeah. I know him from there's this old movie, Pegapon movie called Cross of Iron. That's all I know him from.
He's in Straw Dogs too.
He is. That's right. He's
in Straw Dogs.
Guy.
Yeah,
okay.
He's in Straw Dogs.
Was he in Tron? Was he the?
He may have been in Tron. The thing that stood out to me as soon as I saw his face, he was in The Omen. He's the guy who gets beheaded by the sheet of glass in The Omen.
Oh shit!
That's David Warner.
Nice.
But I love David Warner as Ra's al Ghul, detective.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Mary Lou Henderson did a voice on the show. Paul Williams did a voice on the show.
Paul Williams.
Yes. Who?
Paul Williams was...
The Penguin, yo.
I think he was Penguin.
He looks like him, yo.
He was the early Penguin.
Okay.
I don't think he did the whole season, but he was the early Penguin.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Rod Perlman, John Glover, Ed Asner, Helen Slater, who played Supergirl in the live-action Supergirl movie.
Okay.
Billie Jean.
And Billie Jean.
Yes.
Wow.
And then Michael York and Treat Williams.
Oh,
Were all
wow.
on the show,
Damn.
as different characters. But some of them are just so great. Like even if you go to some of the other things that Tim and the other people worked on, like Superman and Justice League. Like when we get later on, I think it was Michael Madsen plays a character. Was it Metamorpho?
Yes. Either there or Metallo.
It was either Metallo or that was fantastic.
It was good.
Dennis Farina was the voice of Wildcat in Justice League later on.
Okay.
I mean, so many terrific ones. And I forgot the actor's name. If I'm not mistaken, he played Doctor Strange in that old Doctor Strange.
Dr. Fate? Dr. Fate?
No.
Dr. Strange.
It was, I think Dr. Mordred or whatever. It was a Doctor Strange ripoff TV movie that they did. And
yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
But the actor who played that, if I'm not mistaken, was the voice of the Question.
Okay.
On Justice League. But anyway, Andrea Romano as the voice director for this show, just fucking peerless to me.
She's great at leading it too, man. They showed this like one of the DC Con last year. They broadcast it live on YouTube, and they showed her directing different actors and how they do it, and how they just cut in. And the actors are on point. They had to be ready to go when she's ready for them to go. But she's like, okay, and Cree, do this, and you do this, and you do this, and now together, and just back off, and now do this. Do it in this kind of voice. It's like, wow. And it's like one take, they get it all done. It's like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
It's very incredible to watch.
And she talks about directing the actors, and she says that when they're reading the script, they don't really know what's going on in the scene. You know, they haven't acted it out. They're just it's just in their heads. So she has to tell them, oh, you're getting punched. Okay, now you're getting kicked. This should sound different from the punch because now you're like, oh, you know, it's like those kinds of things. Or, oh, they flipping Batman, it gets thrown or whatever. You know, like you have to really. She has to tell them exactly what's going on in the scene. So she has the storyboards to reference.
Yeah.
They may or may not have that. But anyway, it's fantastic to see her.
It really is.
Her doing her thing.
Yeah, it's like a conductor in symphony. You know.
Yeah. A couple of trivia points that I picked up, and you guys probably know some of this stuff from Dwight has. We're at Dwight's house, and Dwight's got his Batman the Animated the art book.
She got for him for Christmas one year.
Yeah, did I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
All right, you're welcome, sir. Because that looks like I think I got two. I think I got one for myself, and I got one for you as a gift. But yeah, so some of this is common knowledge, like the Tim Curry thing. But the opening sequence that opens the show was based on a demo that they did to sell the tone of the show to the executives. This is what it could look like, and so you see guns and you see the criminals and you see Batman dispatching them, on the rooftop, and then of course that famous silhouette with the lightning behind it. That was like a demo that they did for the executives. It was Kevin Conroy's idea to use two slightly different voices for Bruce and Batman. Bruce is a little more up tempo. Hi, Commissioner. How you doing?
Yeah.
And then, sure, Alfred. And then he goes a little more somber. And to me, of all the actors who have attempted that, he has done the best job of it.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't sound hacky or phony or contrived. It sounds
sounds assertive.
Yeah.
It sounds like, hey, look. You know what I'm saying? But when he's Bruce, I noticed that watching it last night too.
Yeah.
Like when he's Bruce, he's very like, I'll meet you for dinner at 8.
Yeah. Harley Quinn and Renee Montoya were both created for Batman the Animated Series.
So they didn't exist before that?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. Dini created that Harley Quinn character, I believe, maybe with Tim.
Yes.
For the episode. And she first appears in the series along with Renee Montoya, and then later they were introduced into the DC Comics proper.
That's crazy because when I was getting into comics, Montoya was in the comics like during Nightfall, and that would have been like around 93, but that was just as these cartoons were coming out. So they quickly integrated Montoya into it.
Yeah.
Because it seems like her and Bullock, they've always been there.
Right.
Okay.
So, as it relates to that, this is another one. This is why I sent you guys that. Harvey Bullock first appears in Detective Comics 441.
That's right.
Created by Archie Goodwin and Howard Chaykin.
Yes.
And it's only for brief, and you don't get much a sense of him, but they incorporated his character into the animated show and obviously made him a more prominent figure and gave him a real personality, for as much as that character has a personality. Hey, Kate Freak.
Wait a minute. but prior to the first Tim Burton movie, he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He showed up in I guess that was maybe early 80s, late 70s, early
late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, Batman Detective Comics 441.
Impressive.
And in that issue, there is a backup story with the Manhunter with Goodwin and Simonson.
Woo, this is my shit. Yeah, mine too, dog.
We mentioned about the designs and all of that. The acronym Batman the Animated Series wasn't adopted until later, like Adrian was pointing out. I think when we were talking earlier.
Yeah, BTAS.
Yeah, it was just they never called it anything. It was just.
And you can notice that in the opening, there are no titles that say Batman. Nothing. Yeah. It's just that you know what this is. Come on now, you know what this is.
Right. I mean, the guy's been around at that point, 60 some odd years.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you know what's up. But what do you guys think, man, ultimately made a show like this special and makes it endure like it has? Because, again, I mean, we all kind of we're coming back to it as middle-aged men.
Yeah.
And despite, I tried to deter or deflect some of my nostalgia and just say, okay, is this still entertaining to me? And I was caught up in the story.
Right.
So all the things you all have mentioned in that we all brought up here today, a lot of it stayed with me. But what do you guys think really made it special and different from other things? It's
the stories that are timeless.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the way it's filmed. Animation is a style that's not glitzy and glamorous. It necessitates the mode. and it just feels like you can't help but get gripped by it and be brought into it based on that.
And I think unlike a lot of cartoons today, where it almost feels like, ephemeral or something like, sugary cereal almost, where it's
candy
like,
coated.
Yeah. That stuff didn't talk down to the audience. And it was written by writers who were actual writers. And it's amazing. In 22 minutes, counting commercials and everything, in 22 minutes, they're able to deliver a full plot story, characters, make you feel for these characters. And you never felt like you were being talked down to, even as a kid. I mean, it was one of those cartoons that even my dad watched. If he would be home early from work when I got there, or he would be coming in, he and I would sit down and watch an episode together occasionally.
Nice.
And he enjoyed it.
It's nice.
It would just be like, dang,
Yeah. And maybe the kind of nods to older films and the older styles, something that he picked up on,
Exactly.
probably watching those films when he was a kid.
Exactly. Or, he would come in, I think he got into it when he saw me watching it, and it was some fight scene or whatnot. And you know how those fight scenes were staged where, you would see the punch connect, but it would be like a slight flash as the punch connected to add to the emphasis of that type of thing. So I think he got into it on that, and just, the stories are timeless, and it didn't talk down to the audience.
Yeah.
Which I feel that a lot of animation does today. There's some that carry on the tradition of, the animated series, of course, that whole Tim verse.
Right.
But I think those stories and then later Tim series, really carry on. It's the writing.
Yeah.
First and foremost. It's the writing and the design.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when you look at animation today, not all of them, like you said, there's some really good series out on Netflix, especially. They're really carrying the banner higher. But when you look at the quality of the storytelling meshed with animation, it's undeniable. Like one of the things that gets me is when it comes on, it's just low. It's like this.
Right.
and it kind of reminds me of, in a lot of ways, of that scene in Fantasia where Mickey's conducting and he's sitting there, and the character rises out. Is it Maleficent that rises out of the
like this little, not a little demon, but a demon type.
Yeah. It always feels like a sense of magic with that show, man, to me, and I love it based on that.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right as far as the writing is concerned. Like you're saying, not talking down to the audience, and trying to present real characters. Even the villains, real characters. The mobster whose brother loses his leg because they're playing on the railroad track.
They're relatable.
Yes, I love that episode.
Yeah.
They're relatable.
And him, again, having regret, but he's already taken on this mantle as this gangster, so he's got to be hard. And then eventually he comes to terms with the fact that he's got to reconcile. He's got to make it right in some kind of way. But I think the voice casting, the fact that the writing was so good, so the actors, treated it seriously, and you felt that. I was watching the one with the Mad Hatter episode with Rodney Mcdowell, and I was listening to the subtlety of his voice. And I think he was a trained actor. Is Rodney McDowell?
Oh,
yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, Shakespearean. Yeah.
He's a trained actor, so he's so I just love Alice in Wonderland. You remember that song in there? Will they? Won't they? And you hear his voice, like all these peaks and valleys in the performance of his, of his character and whatnot. And you really hear him taking it seriously. So I think that was part of it too. Is the actors? I've even in one of the documentaries on my DVDs, they say, the actors would come in and after they would finish recording, they said, man, this is great stuff. I wish I could get some stuff like this in live action.
Yeah.
But I think that, like you said, the eternal kind of look of it, with mixing the modern with the vintage, and the fact that it seems as if everyone cared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All parties involved on the creative team, from the the showrunners, they all seem to really care, and put all themselves into it.
Yeah.
And it comes across. It just comes across.
Now, one question I had, and I meant to look this up. Was this sent overseas to be animated, or was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, the look of the cartoon as well, like I know now, a lot of cartoons are just super slick, because digital, of course, nothing wrong with that. But, I thought that there was some of the animation might have been done here before Warner Brothers really closed down the animation department. Because I was just noticing they don't really do stuff like this anymore.
My understanding, again, from one of the old docs on the DVDs was that, they would send it overseas to be animated, and when they would get it back, sometimes, like, the coloring would be off, because, the people who are animating it overseas, it's a different culture, and, they have the script, and they have some sense of what's going on, but, there are going to be subtleties to the story that they might miss.
Yeah.
So the coloring would be off, but it was sent overseas, maybe Korea, if I'm not mistaken.
Most likely.
To be animated. But despite all of that, it just still looks fantastic. And I'll end with what we kind of started with when Dwight opened up his Batman the Animated Series. Those title cards were just the icing, just chef's kiss, just the icing on the cake of the show. I loved seeing those. Like, those primed me for what was going to happen.
Didn't it? Yeah, man. It's like, oh, shit, this is going to be...
Yeah, I mean, they're just so great. And my understanding is, I think Eric Radomski did most of those, according to Bruce Timm.
Yeah.
But they're just wonderful and classic and just a callback to, exactly. Just,
sir.
Yeah.
What?
We're looking at the spread of them now. It's like not a triptych, but what's a four-tick?
Four ticks.
But just those eternal youth, feet of clay. It's never too late. Beware the gray ghost, off balance, the demon's quest, the terrible trio,
sideshow,
showdown, the cat in the claw, perchance to dream, shadow of the bat. Terror in the Sky, just wonderful, man.
Gorgeous stuff.
All of those, just funny off top. All those sound like titles that you would see on like old episodes of like The Streets of San Francisco.
Man,
written by Glenn A. Larson.
But you know what though? But that's the thing, and not oddly enough, but coincidentally, James Tucker, when he went on to do the Brave and the Bold, he did the same thing, where he said he wanted every one of the title cards for the episodes to be like, this is a so-and-so production, like that.
Right.
TV. So they absolutely nailed it, They nailed it.
Oh, man. That concludes this episode of Sidebar Forever, hosted by Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrian Johnson. You can find us online at sidebarforever.com. Any emails or questions can be directed to us at sidebarforever@gmail.com. And also, subscribe to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.